All right, we are live again. This is Josiah on Each One Teach One. After um, enjoying the conversation I had with Watermaya, and a little later, a lot of people came in and they were talking. Anyway, before I start this, I wanted you to know this is a special edition of a part that we've done before. Is Africa Rising is a sham without technology. So this is part two. Africa Rising is a sham without technology. I have posted the StreamYard link over there. If anybody wants to chime in and come in and say their piece, if you're interested in letting in coming in here to talk with us about this very important topic, that would be really appreciated. Now, moving forward, if you are new here, please go ahead and subscribe. If you stumble upon this by mistake, please subscribe on it. Uh, like it, share it, and also click the notification button so whenever I come in here to talk about the things that bothers us or things that are important to us, that you will be a part of it. I welcome all and sundry to be a part of this. Now, this is not prearranged; it's an impromptu speech that I'm going to give, basically touching on things that I've heard today, things that I learned today. So while talking to one of my, which lasted for about 5 minutes, 5 hours, I put on hold some of the stuff that I had to do for the day. I pushed it off to some of my representatives to do because I find Wadamaya very interesting. The movement that he's gotten so far, he might be undermining the power he wields, but it's a very strong one, and many intelligent and brilliant people had communicated with him and told him the status quo, which means has a target on his back because he's talking this powerful re-education thing that he's telling the youths across the globe and blacks worldwide. And is getting louder. And there's many YouTubers that are formulating and coming up with different groups. I myself am part of it. I'm more into technology. I'm into computer engineering and stuff like that. That's my background, and I have a company out here in the U.S. And with following with Maya has taught me a lot of stuff that now I know was very important. Having learned all the truth and the so-called truth and the truth now in this time, which is the very beginning of a new century, it is necessary for us to put our money where our mouth is. So we have to perform not only in by talking, but indeed using our resources, including financial resources, to be a part of the stuff. So moving forward, there was a lady that talked, an Ethiopian lady that talked that moved me. There's another guy in the U.S. that talked that really moved me, who actually have what we call a point understanding of the lay down, the structure given to our people. So the structure given to our people is nothing but one, which promotes the oppressor and vilifies the ancestors. So moving forward, we were stripped of all our identity and everything we know about ourselves. And then while our cousins were being enslaved in foreign lands, we were also being enslaved in our country of birth. The difference is that they were in a foreign land and we're in a country of birth. So the same situation that happened in the foreign land was actually happening in the motherland. Leopold, if we know the story of Leopold, what he did in DRC, current day DRC, which used to be his personal property, personal country. So, without that being said, I don't want to waste a lot of time with the background information. So I'll just go straight to the point. There was a lady that talked. She's in the UK. She took the high level problems of the blacks and broke it down to a layman structure where anybody, even people that speak pidgin English and the vernacular, more like the West African English, will understand her. And I really respect her for that. She did that for a reason. She wanted a wide range of people to understand her. She's not that she doesn't know how to speak English, so she's more into the newfound mission she's on. And I sympathize with her because she sounds like somebody that's extraordinary in the sense that she has brilliant ideas and things, but the circumstances around her and her experiences is not making it possible for her to act accordingly, like purposefully with the plans that she has. Now, having listened to all these people, we all have the same problem. The problem we forget that we don't notice is the fact that we are in a system that colonized or enslaved us, and we're telling the system we want to be in the hem of things. We want to rise. But the system has been there for years, and the system purposefully kept us the way we are for a reason. The reason is if somebody knows their identity, they have to fall in line with the true identity. And that means the system there is, or the status quo, will be neglected. I'll give you an example. Children will always look for their parents, especially the absent as an absentee parent. Not the absentee parent that uh, not the one that doesn't want to see the child. I mean, an absentee parent brought about by circumstances. So, say if they left the land during the slavery, they will be taken away from the family unit. The man gets taken away from the family unit, and is the woman and the child. You see, it's a long history of women being head of the household, which was perpetuated by the enslavement of black people, which was a big part of the capitalism. So capitalism was riding on the back of black folks who were enslaved and colonized at the same time. So the story here is we are in a system that doesn't want us to rise. We do 10 times whatever it is that we allow that will present us or enforce our presence before the oppressor before we get an attention. So every black person has to practice what is called a knockout. A knockout approach is when you do something you're too good and you do it so well that nobody else have a choice. So for those of us that live in the West, we have to practice a knockout all day long because we do know that the master we always value something exceptional or extraordinary because it makes them money. So those that live here that are running their businesses, it's not easy for them. I give you a record account of what's going on. Yeah, in the U.S., majority of black businesses during this COVID period, there's an amount of money that the United States government is giving out to small businesses. Some of them is PPP, Paycheck Protection Plan, and some of them is more like the COVID emergency funds, which is actually a loan that they give to people. Statistics shows that 95% of black people are not qualifying for it. 95%. You go figure that one out. So basically, the money is for the system, the ones that are recognized by the system itself. So I'm not trying to talk anybody down. I'm not trying to bring that spirit of the warring spirit or fighting spirit, but I'm trying to allow everybody to look at the face in the mirror, to relax a little bit and calm down a little bit and look at themselves to better evaluate the situation. Whether you are playing into the system hands, you are thinking in the box, or you are thinking outside the box. Now, the reason why I say that is we've been thinking within the box and outside the box for so long. So we buy to the educational system, we buy to the standard, we buy to everything that comes from the West is the best. These are the colonial minds talking to us right here. That mentality we need to diminish or decimate it from our psyche. We have to understand that nobody has a bad system. However, people have systems that work for them. So the system that we're talking about that doesn't allow us to be what we want to be is for those who made that system. It's not for you. Simple as that. Franklin made a mention of that. Now, I am highlighting that point again. So what Amaya has done is to create an opportunity for us to talk and say our piece. Those who are fearless and zealous about the need for their people who are being oppressed to free themselves from mental slavery. So it is not a war that has been started here. Nobody's thinking about that. We live in a civilized world and we understand that any disruption in the economy is not good at all for anyone. So economy has to keep moving forward. So what we are calling for is emancipation, emancipating oneself from mental slavery, recognizing that you are sick. If you know that you are sick, you have to recognize your frailty. Once you understand your frailty, you look for a doctor. But the problem is, most of us, black folks, don't even know that we are sick. That is why Chiwamboy talks a lot, so often, about the face in the mirror. Look at the face in the mirror. What do you see? For me, when I look at the face in the mirror, I see an African face. So, 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 so enough talk about like we desire this Africa, we want the best for our motherland. Enough talk already. Okay, enough talk about the Africa we want. So the question is, what are you willing to give up for your Africa? What are you willing to give up? So we talk a good game. We keep talking and talking. We're trying to show how eloquent we are, like Barack Obama or the rest of them. That's not the point. You see, if you're a Christian, you are trained to be what? To be docile. You are conditioned to forgive everybody. You are also conditioned to turn the next cheek if somebody slaps you on the other cheek. So that's the Christian philosophy and the doctrine of Christianity. So your reward is not here on the planet. Your reward is somewhere else in the heavens. That's where your Father is, and that's where everything is nice and heavenly. So that's the promise given to Christians. Muslims have the same promise. Okay, so they want to go to Al Jannah, which is somewhere in the heaven as well. However, those of you who are conversant with the African spirituals, the African spiritual is not anything close to those two religions that I mentioned. And then the African spiritual is completely separate and apart. The ideology is different. The ideology builds a society. It's not a philosophy based on me first or an individual philosophic mind of an individual and capitalistic ideology. So the capitalistic ideology coupled with the religion tells us a story. The story it tells us is one complements the other. It is then possible that the religion was put in place to control the people so the capitalists can do what? Can rein in the wealth of those who are confused and those who were conquered and those who weren't strong enough to look after themselves. So those who didn't believe in unity amongst themselves will forever be divided. So conquering a nation is not an easy thing. There's a spiritual aspect to it. There are sacrifices done. Okay. So what you're practicing today is religion given to you by your conquerors or your oppressors. I don't mean any disrespect to anybody. I don't talk down on people in what they believe in or what they choose to believe in or how they want to lead their life. But remember, you are an African first. So let's start from looking at the face in the mirror. When I look at my face in the mirror, yeah, I see a person who is in tune with the times and understand what they do to liberate himself from the struggle that we find ourselves in. Okay? So you cannot realize the Africa that you cry about all day, that I hear people talk about by talking and ranting. You're not going to be able to change anything by talking and ranting about it. But we need to look at the face in the mirror and see what is uneasy on that face. So we all love an easy looking face when a face is easy on the eyes. Everybody appreciates that. Oh yes, that is the only face we can change. The face that we're looking at in the mirror, that's the face that we can change, to be precise. So today I'm telling you, I'm letting you know that you are the face of the continent. You are the face of Africa. You are the African face. We must recognize the face of the African continent to move forward. We must recognize that unity is not when the boundaries are broken down. There's something stronger than unity. It has to happen. That's the decolonization of your mind, freeing your mind from mental slavery. That those two have to happen before you can unite. And now, with that being said, you can recognize easily that unification of Africa is not necessarily when the walls are torn down, because those walls took years to build. Therefore, there has to be another perspective. There has to be another approach to attack that problem. Because before things happen in the physical world, they've already existed in the spiritual realm. That is very important for us to understand these facts. I will take questions later, but please give me some time to run down, give you the background, and I talk about how technology comes into the equation. Please bear with me. So when we're talking about in the mirror, the African face, we must recognize the face of the African continent. What are the faces of the African continent? So when I look at my face, I see my eyes, I see my ears, I see my nostrils, I see my mouth, and I see my forehead and my ears. I see my cheek, and I see my chin, and all that. And it looks nice when I have any pimples. So it just looks nice, and I know, yeah, I don't have to do much with that face. But when we look at the Africans, we see so many problems. All of them are related. None of them are different. None of them weighs more than the other. We have to recognize what was taken from us from the beginning. Okay, when the Portuguese landed in those shores in the 14th century, what did they take from us? They made friends with us. That means they knew our culture. For somebody to dance with you, they have to know your culture, unless you're stupid enough to allow a stranger to be your friend. They have to know our politics, how we govern ourselves. All right. They have to know quite a few things about us. They have to know our spirituals. That's why most of the missionaries of old, the English missionaries and the French missionaries, they were aware that the Africans were spiritual. Most Africans are circumcised. Most Africans, they don't marry a woman before, I mean, they don't get intimate with a woman before marriage. These are the so-called heathens. Most Africans, they don't meet a woman in her cycle. Most Africans, they have songs that they sing in the morning, songs that are supposed to be sung in the afternoon and the evening. These are cultured, highly spiritual people. These are people that have reached a very high level of spirituality. An African in the back in those days before Christianity, you cannot sleep with another man's wife. It's an abomination. You can't even try it because you're not gonna succeed trying that. It doesn't happen. And you can't even rape a girl or any girl or anybody. You can't do those things. It's not practiced back then. There's nothing like greed back then. Okay? Because Africans didn't trade in money. They have a different system called barter, where they exchange stuff and build their societies by themselves, by working together as a unit. These are what the oppressors took from us. They destroyed all because there was one that is capitalist in nature. In Europe back then, they were suffering of all kind of diseases, all manner of diseases, famine and corruption, all sort of stuff. They needed to expand. With the knowledge in science and technology, they were able to chart a new path for themselves. They moved across and started conquering. So moving back to identifying the African face, there's another piece that we have to recognize. That's technology. And now, how do they all play into the picture? I'll try to give it a stab and I'll try to be as detailed as possible. You see, when you look at the face in the mirror, your left eye, your right eye is like your culture. Okay? Your culture, you must accept it. And then when you look at that same face, you see your left eye is your governance, the way you govern yourself, or the so-called politics, like they call it today. You guys have to remember the democracy of today is the democracy by nature of the one that has the biggest gun. It's not Lincoln's definition, government of the people, for the people, and by the people. That's not what it is. The true democracy is what we find in Africa. African leadership is from grassroots. So in African leadership, you have a family. A family has to belong to a village, a clan. So clan, I mean, 6 or 7 villages will form a clan. And the clan, if it's a highly developed society kingdom, that clan has to report to the kingdom. So that means the chief of the clan becomes a part of the cabinet, a member of the cabinet for that king. So you see, every household has the head of the household, which is the man, who is subsequently an elder in that village. The villages have different titles that they call those such elders, and those elders report to the clan head, and the clan now reports to the king in a high level of society. That's how it works. That's the African system. It comes from grassroots. So you see, from our level, the information is there about how the people are doing, not from top down of what we see today. So I'm not saying any of this system are the best. I'm just saying you have to look at what works for you. So moving forward, when you look at the culture, like I said, is your right eye, and your governance or political system is your left eye. And now the your nostril or your nose is the African spiritual. So the reason why the nose is African spiritual is this: without the eyes and your ears, if you have your nose, you can still survive. You can still survive. Okay. Now the spiritual allows you to translate the things up above. The eyes cannot even see them. These are beyond science. They translate these, try to represent those that is above, things that are above in the physical realm. So with your spiritual, you can translate those order, the high order that the eyes cannot see, you can translate and bring it to human level. That's what your spiritual is. The African spiritual is very important. It has nothing to do with religion. You have to understand my previous discourse in religion is that I am trying to link close to the place where that religion is being used to rule the people. So I'm saying that religion has been the ruler of the people. But at some point in history, somebody removed religion from politics and created a state, a secular state that separated apart from from religion because they don't want the priest to wield more power. If you check your history, you recognize when that happened. The English people did that. Okay, so if you check your history, you recognize when that happened. That's when the power was taken from Roman Catholic. They were power all the way in Europe, and then a certain king has to make that shift. So we can see clearly that religion is used to condition the people, and that was what happened to Africa. They sent out the missionaries to Africa. The job that they gave them when they sent them out to Africa was to convince the people, rather deceive the people and confuse the people and make them see us to be more powerful and to see us as their God. That's what happened to Africans. Africans already were nice people. They are easily they are accepting. They were practicing the philosophy of Christ. That is why the missionaries were now trying to tell us to be tell us all those things that we already are practicing. However, what they were doing is they were condemning our ways, telling us that we are heathens and pagans. They were working so hard in condemning our ways. They weren't showing us a way we can catch up with them in modern science and technology. They were not teaching us those things. They were teaching us how to count numbers and stuff like that so we can count products that they ship out. They were teaching us their language, which is stupid on our part to believe in their language and throw away our own native tongues. Till today, some of our children born in big cities, even in motherland, cannot speak their own language. As you can see, we have serious issues in where our culture and governance and politics is concerned. So, so now we have identified the left eye, the right eye, what they are, and we have also identified African spiritual as your nostrils. Now, let's identify the other one. So, whatever you see, whatever you're thinking in your brain, it doesn't matter. Whatever you internalize, the only way I can know, or the only way you can tell somebody else what you have internalized, how you can pretty much materialize or animate your thoughts is through your speech. When you speak, you make things to be. So through your mouth, you speak, and that is technology. We have to own that. Okay, we have to own that technology. Okay, we have acknowledged our spiritual ourselves as spiritual beings. We have also identified that the democracy of today doesn't work for us. We have also identify our culture, and we have to accept our culture. And most are accepting their culture. I see a lot more people, the youth, wearing African attires, and African prints has been popular recently. And I encourage you guys to keep doing that. That's a part of embracing who you are. Africa, as it is a ticking bomb, both economically, scientifically, and technologically. Whether you believe it or not, it's like a pregnant woman. When that 36 week elapse, that baby's gonna drop. Gravity is gonna push the baby out, regardless. So now we have identified the amount of all these attributes that I mentioned, all part of the human face. The only one if you take it out, you can never survive is the mouth because you need to eat. And the mouth does the job the nose do sometimes. You can breathe through it. Okay, so now think deeper over that. Let me not spend a little more time, too much time on that. Just think for yourself on that. So there need to be a technological revolution, and that will not and cannot happen until you identify the face in the mirror, and that's the African face. And the question that will be flying in your head right now is, what are the ears when we're looking at the face in the mirror? The ears is already your right ear is already there. That was the first mobilization that was done by Ghana. That's the year of return, right? The next one now is yet to happen. We don't know when. This mobilization is when you put your money where your mouth is, using your financial, economic power to mobilize the movement of your people to a better place, whichever way you can have it. So these are what you have to recognize. You cannot talk about culture. You cannot talk about governance, democracy, or whatever, politics, without taking it back to the root. You can't do that. You can't talk about African spiritual without taking it back to the root. I'm not telling you to stop whatever you're practicing, but I'm telling you, remember, you're an African first. You can't deviate from the old ways. And if you do, you can't amount to anything. Look at the Indians, the Chinese. Okay? A Chinese man was telling me one day, do you know men manufacture God? I said, what do you mean? I was like laughing at him. I said, is that okay? The same way your people manufacture the stuff for the world. And he started laughing. He said, man, look, people manufacture God. That anything could be God to anyone. I was looking at him like, wow, this is crazy. That's what I thought. But when I started thinking, I was like, that kind of philosophy, do you know how he put his people in a better position? They manufacture everything because they think they can manufacture a God. Do you see where I'm coming from, people? So what you feed your mind has a lot to do with what you can do. So the black people have become the consumers of the world, and nobody have respect for us. And yet, in the countries, foreign lands that we live in, we do the best that is, and we are in all the important positions where we play whatever role, and we are good at it. So those resources we can take back where we're from, like they always say, go back where you came from. Now, I don't know if that resonates with any one of you guys. We've amassed a lot of knowledge out here, and our people in all different facets everywhere. Okay, so now continuing on in our discourse about the African faith. So the culture is a way of life, the ways of the ancestors. Okay, the Japanese has their own way. They call it the way of the samurai, Bushido. They never forgot that, even after they abolished their system, samurai, Bushido. They still maintain and kept a museum of their culture and people. Okay? So when people forget who they are, their culture, their ancestors, their language, they have a serious problem. Most Africans speak fluently in other people's language, not even theirs. What a shame. And they teach their children the same. And you classify, most Africans will classify you as smart depending on how well you speak a foreign language. Isn't that stupid? But yet, we're talking Africa will rise or Africa rising. All right. So when it comes to the culture, we're talking about your language, your grooming, your fashion, your social life, the norms and nuances in that society. Okay? This has nothing to do with Western culture. When we talk about African culture, it's completely opposite. It runs parallel from Western culture. Okay? My question now is, can we go back to who we really are as far as culture is concerned? Practice things that are righteous, not unrighteousness, and we justify the unrighteousness because we use the law to justify the unrighteousness. We use the capitalistic system in the Western world to justify unrighteousness, and we call even upon ourselves when we do that. Okay, I don't want to sound like a preacher here, but I'm trying to stress on something that we must recognize in order for us to move forward. So now let's look at governance and politics. In governance and politics, I try to talk a little bit about this. The African leadership does not leave any loose link. It is usually from the grassroots up. Okay, it is socialistic in nature, and everyone is taken care of by the community. So it's like this: the one serves all and becomes all for all. The one is no longer important as all absorbs the embodiment of greatness. The one is in all, and all is in one. That is right there, African governance for you. Now, when we talk about the spiritual, this is the most sacred part of being an African. Okay? That bubble of energy around all of us, like sort of like a universal fingerprint. Like every one of us has that envelope of energy around them. That's why some people can say, oh, that man is so cold. Oh, that man is cool. He's nice. He's approachable. Oh, man, that guy is hilarious. So there's a bubble of energy around every one of us. Okay? All right? So I recognize that the ethnic people, like our ancestors, including us, understood these and they tapped into such energy. So they did that for many things. Okay? So, for instance, with these bubble of energy, they were able to come up with sacred medicines, sacred songs, tales, and they have the priestly lineage and all that kind of stuff. So, my question is, where are these things? Where are our sacred medicine, our songs, our tales, priestly lineage of our people and all of that, our kingship and everything, our education, the Dogon, they mapped out the skies, they know all the stars. How did they do it? Where are we? Who is studying these things? Our herbs, what's happening to them? Who is studying them? Where are the scientists that could be reverse engineering them, using the knowledge from the West to create something better than what is in the West, instead of giving people placebo and genetically modified food and chemically raised, chemically concorded medicine, clinically or chemically concorded medicine, or that doesn't have any organic agent in it, most inorganic, highly sophisticated lab chemicals that are given to humans. Okay, so our people should be taking those ideas that they learn to reverse engineer them and come up with herbs that are sustainable, that doesn't even have side effects or comparably lower side effects. Where are these people? This is the African spirituals. Now, let's talk about another important aspect of the African spiritual. I've talked about the three of them. Now we're talking about the number four, technology. I am actually defining these as I go along. So the thoughts within comes through the mouth. Causing events, in most cases, could be animated, make something materialize, So they become materialized in tangible and non-tangible aspect. So if you're in the computer world, you notice that a lot of people's ideas could be non-tangible, meaning the website you can't touch or feel it, but you can see it. It's not really physical like a house that your mind can figure out how to build a house on an object, or any kind of scientific work could be done and you made it materialize in a lab where you can see the chemicals and all of that. But there are also things that are non-tangible that your mind can come up with, come to life, meaning come to a service of the mankind or humanity. So that's what we're talking about here. The African technology and our science were long written and carried down through oral tradition, and some by writings of great books, which you can find a lot of them presently in Mali today, in Timbuktu. Even when the Greeks came, Greeks took a lot of it and burned a lot in Egypt. So know your history and free yourself. So, like I said, the Dogon mapped the skies. Some part of West African has a priesthood where the priests ruled the nations. A particular place in Nigeria had a priesthood. It's called Enri Kingdom. So the priests were ruling the people in that region. There's a whole lot of plethora of things that Africans have done in technology. In the West Africa, they have built kingdom. They have walls. Where in Zimbabwe, they have stone walls before anybody could think about it. In Uganda and Gambia, they have even stone henges just like the one in Scotland and all that kind of stuff. So our people have been building stuff. Where are we? What are we doing? How are we supporting our builders? Are we still thinking that the people that oppressed us are much better than our people that have went through a lot of hardship to come up with a skill set or technology or an idea or a scientific discovery? Do you still think that these people are wasting their time? They are not good enough? If the masters or the slave masters or the oppressors are able to employ them and employ them, does it mean that they are stupid, that we can't recognize when they are telling us facts to check them? Brothers, these are the African face that I've just explained to you. So I need you to think clearly about it. The mouth cannot say, I don't need the ears. Okay? Deep in our thoughts, we wonder when our sorrows will end, right? As we put all the parts of the puzzle together, we realize that one cannot do without the other. Just like the nose cannot do without the ears, and the mouth cannot do without the eyes, and the culture cannot do without the spiritual cannot do without technology, and technology cannot do without governance. Moving forward, some talk about the unification of Africa. Yes, the unification of Africa lies in our understanding of the face in the mirror. Do you know your face? If you don't know yourself face as a person, how can we know our face, the African face? Is that possible? If we can understand the face in the mirror, then we have spoken one language already. If all black folks across the globe can understand the face in the mirror, we have spoken one language. The face of Africa is the name of that language. Today, let this be your language. That a young man in Mali will embrace another from Kenya, one from Tanzania embraces another from South Africa, and so on and so forth, and all that. And once in the continent, embrace the ones that is in Jamaica, or the one in UK, or the one in the US, or the one in the Caribbean, Latin America, Brazil, and all the rest of it. If they can do that, as I've seen them doing it now, that is already sending a strong message of speaking one language. Let us reach out to our youth. The youth is the only priceless asset that Africa have right now. Forget about what's underground. I know the whole world wants to kill Africa for what's underground, right? Check this out. The youths are also a powerful tool because these youths are smart enough to understand the situation of their ancestors, of their people, what their people have gone through. They have this little thing in their hand. This is a little computer. All of them got this. And they gather a lot of information about who they are and what has been happening to their people from here. And they are using this to their own advantage. I don't think they want the same thing to happen to them. This is why we should reach out to them and empower them. Any successful rise of Africa needs technology as much as it needs every other aspect of our social life. Okay? Now, we understand that there are a lot of forces that are pushing from the south, from the north, from the west, from the east. They are pushing. Okay? So these forces are foreign to the continent. We cannot sit and do nothing. Franklin says that, I can't even say it enough. He says that Africa has a do nothing attitude to what is happening. You don't have to take a gun or something to go fight somebody. The fight is not what you guys think. The fight is done in the mind. We have to free our mind and open our mind to embrace the new thing that's coming. Unification of Africa requires that we support ourselves, be content in ourselves, and then we can be content enough to support another. Therefore, we must support holistically our businesses, our products, our science, our technology. If not, we're going to remain the laughingstock of the earth and they will rule over us for another 1,000 years. Is that what you want? I know for myself, that's not what I want. That's why I'm working so hard, staying up at night, doing all that I can to stave off the invaders and those that are trying to rule over innocent folks. Now, Christians and Muslims, I'm not picking on all of y'all. Okay? Many of you think that you get what you want through that direction. Well, if you apply this philosophy of being a Christian or philosophy of being a Muslim, there's an element of forgiveness. That means no matter what you do, you'll be forgiven, right? I don't want to go too deep into that. Yes. So if Africa try to do what they can in order to change those that are trying to invade them, I don't think they have done anything wrong. Even there's opportunity for repentance coming from above to those who are seeking to help themselves. So now that we have one language, I presume I have made it clear what the one language is. It's not necessarily Swahili. Swahili is the physical aspect of it, but the spiritual aspect of it, which is more mental, is that we see the need to unify as a means of survival. And we see and understand that it's necessary for I myself to become Ugandan and for you to become Kenyan immediately, and for you to understand the need to tear down the walls in the mind first. It is then easier to tear it down physically. So I think the youths are doing a great deal of work. Look at what the Mile is commanding over 300,000 people, and these people are young folks, and they're doing amazingly well. We have to bring them into the ring to make them understand the African face, and so that way they can start continue speaking this language. Okay. Now, the African face, having identified the problems and means to solve it, there need to be a leadership because we already know that the current leadership or presidents or prime ministers or those in the helm of affairs in Africa, they are sellouts. So they are dancing to the tune of the puppet master. So the puppet master will string them whichever way, hita or theta. So we understand that. So there is a need. There have to be one that leads, one that is zealous enough, fearless in their mind, and they have to be strong enough to build and reshape today and tomorrow. One that is intimate with the values of Africa, muscle, one that possesses acute understanding of the language and the codes of the oppressors. In my opinion, I have some people that come to my mind in leadership, but I'm not going to mention them here. But you have to start thinking along that line. How can you identify those that are very well lettered in the laws, international laws, and align with them in support of what Africa needs? Because the Africa we're talking about here are the youths of Africa. I've already explained the situation. There is about 6,000 people in the helm of affairs in Africa, while in fact there are 1.2 billion who are being ruled over. So if you look at the disparity in that number, you have to recognize, according to democracy, then the youths are the ones that are truly the Africans. Now they have to identify this leadership to move forward. A lot of names have come into my mind, but I don't want to talk about it here. Okay, so the first mobilization has already happened in Ghana. The year of return 2019 was that. And we are expecting another call. And when that is going to be, we don't know. But we think that it is very evident, it could be clearly ascertained once the Africans start building together, recognizing talents, and sponsoring those talents, and making sure that anything and everything that will bring an ordinary person to par with somebody who is in UK or US is commendable. So we have to encourage our technology builders who are building these things to keep going on. They're not getting support from the masses, and they're not getting support from their own people. It's very discouraging when we listen to the lady, how she was so sad and disheartened by her situation and what happened to her. So we need to start looking out for ourselves. What Amaya has, Franklin, who are those African Tigress, who else are there? Dr. Mumbi, they have a powerful channel and they can use the channel for good and recognizing what is right and supporting what we need done that can benefit us. So we come out to other people's platform, we talk all this talk about freeing Africa on other people's platform. Does that make sense to you? Does it have any kind of intelligence? It is very important that we recognize our mistake. Our mistake is not having our own platform, talking all this yak on other people's platform. Not other people's platform in the sense that they are outside the globe. I'm talking about in the sense that economically we are working against ourselves. Do you know that the black people all across the globe have over-indexed every race in the mobile usage of the internet? They have over-indexed every race except for the Chinese. And when I say Chinese, you know their number. I mean, except for the Asians. Sorry, not Chinese. Asians. We have over-indexed every other person except for the Asians. Their number is so huge. Okay, that's the point I'm making over there. So you take that and chew on that. All right. So we have to build the first indigenous businesses. We have to build them, big or small. We have to build things that we need first. We need a safe way of communication. We need a secure means of communicating. We need something alternative to YouTube. We need other stuff like freelancer website for our youths. Our youths are the only thing we got. Most of them are on YouTube's and they depend on YouTube to make money. With all these noises that we are making, they are starting to clamp down on them. Most of them don't understand. There's a need for us to have the technology builders back up all these YouTubers, those who are promoting African content. By so doing, people like the lady in the UK could be taken care of, where she has this business idea, there's no way to make it fly. The YouTubers, to me, today has become the most important people on the planet after the politicians. And they're going to be so in the years to come. However, it is terrible for people like us when we don't own the platforms. So it is important that I expose to you some of the ideas that I have, not just ideas that I have, but what I'm working on. I'm working on an application that can help you secure your information, where you and the person you are talking to are only privy and savvy to the information. It's secured. Outside that, nobody can understand and see whatever you are doing. And for those of you that have channels, and sometimes you do your little conferencing on other channels like Discord or Telegram or whatever, you need this to secure the communication. It is very vital that those who can control their information will control their future. That's bottom line. Why do you think all these big information technology businesses, the most powerful businesses in the world, all of them are internet based? Why do you think? It gives the power there is what they need to police whoever they want to police. So for you to come here and talk about Africa this, Africa that, you're not helping yourself as much as I thought. You should have your own platform so you can have some intelligence and secrecy in what you're doing. So we've already failed on that account. But I'm sure the African youth are smart enough to recognize that we must fix that immediately. I have included the application I'm talking about on the link, and I challenge every one of you to download that application and use them. We want to build this thing here with every one of us all across the globe so we can have the clout and have that respect that we need. When another group of people will be asking us, how did you guys do this? That's when the relevance comes. Therefore, it is a sham for Africa to rise without technology. There's also a Kickstarter project URL link that I've left there for you to go and see what you can do. So right here, there's over 1.2 billion people on the continent and another 1.2 billion outside the continent who are blacks. And if you want to do the research work, you can do it on your own. I'd like for you to start with Brazil, the number of blacks in Brazil. Just start with Brasilia, which is that, no, Rio de Janeiro. They have a lot more number of black people there. And then go to UK, start with London, check that out. And then come to US, start with places like Texas, Maryland, and Texas, Maryland, Georgia. Start with that. Now go to the Caribbean, start with Trinidad, and you start with Jamaica. Then you start with all the other little islands. These are blacks that are outside the African continent. You go to China, Guangdong, you check that out. And Shenzhen, you check that out. Beijing, quite a few there. You go to Japan and you do the same thing. And then you go to Australia, you do the same thing. You go to Canada, Toronto, Canada, you do the same thing. You try Calgary, Canada. So you have about another 1 billion. So that tells us that the black people on this planet has the most population, but nobody's telling us the truth. And we're not even starting to find the truth on. Why do you think the plan is to establish that? Yeah. Because Anybody in nature that excessively uses whatever that is natural will also be exterminated by nature himself. That's not a joke. They know this. In a few years, the people you call majority now will become minority. But systematically, they drill it in your mind to make you think you're a minority. No, you are not. That is why the plan is to exterminate you. The Chinese are coming to take what you have. So it's time for you to recognize that that $10 you're spending at Bojangle or $100 you're spending at chicken wings or the money you're spending at Costco or Sam's Club or wherever, that you need to rethink on how you can use that money and put it in a black-owned business so it can yield profits, generational profits. We are cutting over to the digital age and we are doing nothing about it. We are cutting over to the digital age and we are doing absolutely nothing about it. We're sitting and doing nothing and thinking that we're going to have the Africa that we want in a platter of gold. Let me tell you something. The digital age requires the not necessarily going to universities or whatever. Anything we can to expose them to learn the technology of the day, which involves the internet, programming, software development, machine learning, artificial intelligence. These systems have biases that doesn't include us. Even in medicine, it's been proven. That's why the guy, 53 Gene, which is genomics technology and company, because our genomes are not spec'd out well. It's not definitely not studied to help us in medicine. So carte blanche, we're taking the medicine that's not even designed for us. We have serious problems, brothers. We have to get into technology and be a part of the game. And we have our brothers in YouTube to help us to sponsor or support any tangible, useful product that we need as a group of people who will put our money there and it will succeed. And those that contributed to that will be benefiting from it because they will buy shares from there at discounted prices. We as a people have to come together and structure a way to succeed and move forward. All these people we talk about are not smarter. We are such a disorganized people with dysfunctionalities, but I'm confident we can fix all of that because I have a prime example. In the state of Minnesota, the Somalians, many of you don't know this, the Somalians had the first female police officer there, and now they have several police officers in that state. Somalia were only group of people that are not indigenous to America that have their language in the Constitution of Minnesota, in the region. I mean, the state municipal constitution in the state of Minnesota. They are the only people that when you go to apply for a driver's license in the state of Minnesota, the application comes in Somali language. Could you imagine that? When you go to an office to do business, whatever you get in it in Somali language too. Somali people are so organized that they have their own bank, they have their own school in Minnesota. And if you doubt what I'm telling you, ask anybody that lives in the state of Minnesota. You can Google it yourself. You'll see for yourself. If you start a business today in Minnesota and you're not a Somalian and you have a Somalian friend that started a business, he's going to do well than you first because he's going to go to Somalian bank. They're going to give him money. He's going to kick off. And he's going to do well because he has connection in the cities with anybody, with majority of their people in that city. And they look out for themselves. So if Somalians were able to form a very strong clout in the state of Minnesota in the United States, and I heard they've done the same thing in Georgia as well, I think Africa has hope. The only thing we need to do is to organize ourselves. The youths are hungry for knowledge and education and emotional support and training. And I have volunteered my time and a part of my life to help them out. I interview a lot of them and I know what's in their mind. I showcase their skill sets so that the people outside the continent will start looking towards the continent for production uses. That will bring money to those youths. They are suffering. Their government, they're not looking after them. They only come to them during election times so they can bribe them to bring in the vote. That's what they do. But we can change that. All of us that live in the diaspora, we can change all of that. We can bring the resources they need. We can bring the money in by providing them jobs, regardless of where we live. As I speak to you, I have a company back in Africa, in the continent. I have people spreading across from Ethiopia, Kenya, Uganda, Nigeria, working. Turkey, and in Indonesia, working under the umbrella of the company that I started, which is a startup that have given you this wonderful application that I want you to test right away after we finish talking. Now, I'm done with the solution that I'm providing, and I would like to tell you a little bit more of how I think we should be moving forward if we want to make it. I'm going to make it really short because I know I've been talking for a little bit. Okay, so this is what I think. The information I gathered from the youths that I've been working with, and the ones that I called on another WhatsApp group that you have, they think that the PLO and Dr. Arikana Chiwambori would be good leaders in supporting their aim, and they also think that there's a need for them to start making applications that will help them to secure, that will give them the privacy they need, that will help them to secure their data and keep it private. Because we live in a world where data is ultimate. There are companies that trade in information, and they are one of the richest in the world today. I'm not going to mention names, but you guys know the ABC companies. So they are saying that they would like to appoint the leadership, which will include Arikana Chumumbori and PLO. They will also have to continue in an intelligent manner where they have they're no longer tenants in others' platform. That now rather they have their own platform that will secure who they are moving forward. They also want to align with international legal councils to assist their cause because these young ones are smart enough to know what needed done. So I have become a messenger to them and a spokesperson for them, and I'm carrying the information and sending and broadcasting the information to everyone. So they're also saying that there's a need to organize a press conference and call all Black people from across the world to accept the oneness of Africa. That's unification of Africa. You have to accept it in your mind first, okay, before you start tearing walls down. I've explained the process and what is needed in order to do that. So they're saying that we can accomplish these by drawing the analogy of the face in the mirror. Like I said, that's what they think. Now, the E part of it, which is number 5, they also are saying that it's necessary to organize a second conference to visit all Chinese embassies outside the continent and within the continent. And the same must be done for the continental nations. Their embassies have to be visited as well. There should be a warning to the continental embassies to back off and allow the youth to deal with the matter under the leadership, the chosen leadership. So the clear warning must be sounded. The Chinese have to be given they have to know the intent. There's a need for them to pack out if they are not there to do the right thing. There's a need to pack out and restructure the relationship with them in the near future, which they think is better if it's only business based, not a friendly relationship or any of that. You need more time to know somebody before you become their friends. Now, the number 6 is that there's still a need to organize sort of like a forum, like what am I is doing, where we talk about that stuff on a regular basis. However, all these the heads of these channels must come together at some point to bring uh, uh, many of the channels have missions. They have missions first, and then they have visions. So we have to look at the missions and see how we can all put it together. We know that what Amaya talks about Africa to the world, which is exposing the content of Africans' activities to the world to make everybody see for themselves what the truth is. And now Franklin talks about the diaspora who are not doing so well, but they try to pretend as if they're doing so great. He's bringing the fact from the point because he lives out there and he's been a part of the system. He's a part of the system already, and he's bringing the light from that. So at some point they have to all come together and figure out how to start using these opportunities to empower Black folks because the Black folks have over-indexed everybody else when it comes to the internet footprints and activities. So there has to be a way for them to come together and identify technology builders or technology groups that will formulate on their own, just like I'm starting off. And I'm sure there's other technological gurus that might come back to support what I'm doing. So there's a need to have the technology backing up you guys who are in the forefront so that you guys can succeed and then the ultimate goal will be achieved. So I rest with my case here, and I hope you've learned a lot that Africa cannot rise without technology. I will take questions now. If there's any question or anybody that wanted to pitch in or say something. So I'm trying to see, I'm giving it a little bit more minutes, maybe 3 more minutes to see if anybody will jump in here to say something. So I see Crypto Space Media. You say, please smash the like button. Oh, yeah, please smash the like button if you like it. If you're new to the show, go ahead and smash that like button. Well, first you have to subscribe before you smash the like button and keep sharing the link. So purposefully, I made this edition to bring out some subtle points to point out the need for understanding the African face to move forward. Because without understanding the African face, it's going to be very difficult. You have to free your mind and emancipate your mind from mental slavery. Only you can do that. So when you think your face is uneasy on the eyes, then you have to do something about it. And the unity of Africa is that's the topic that's so talked about, but nothing is done about it. So the app, somebody asked, when is the app going to be out? The app is already out. The app is literally begging you guys to go use it. The website is out there to go download and use the app. It's already out. It's been out for days, and the launch was done at one of the HBCU schools here in Colombia. And there's enough video of the app, and there's a guide on how to use the app. And the app secures your information. It makes sure that your service provider doesn't see what you're sending to anybody. Only you can see it because you're using the app. Everything is encrypted, and it is a way moving forward. It's a new order, and it's a new technology. But it's not any useful if you don't use it and if you don't be a part of it, because we plan to get it into teleconferencing as well as IM audio and video chats. So please go download it and tell your friends about it and keep using it. You don't have to pay anything for it. The app is free. However, we have a Kickstarter campaign that's running, which is why we are doing this, more especially to demonstrate that African people can actually facilitate and support a business of their choice, which in turn will support and help them to achieve their goals. So if we can succeed doing that here with this project that we are running, then we know for sure every other one will successfully be done, just like the Somalians did in Minnesota. So they did well there. So we are trying to use this debut to prove that Africans are weak and they can actually support something that can help them achieve the goal of unification. So without intelligence, we can't do much because each time we plan something, they put the bar higher. Each time we plan something, they put the bar higher. So therefore, we have to find our own platform. Once we do that, we should be fine. So it's about 2 minutes left or 3 minutes left. If nobody says anything, I'm going to wrap it up. I'm still hoping that somebody chimes in their point. I see Barnett, Ben Cruz, Carter Benjamin. He asked about the app being out. The app is already out. I sent you the link right there. You can go download it and play with it and give us feedback because we want to build it with our brothers and sisters. And the teams are completely from the continent. Some of them live outside the continent, but the majority of them are on the continent. So these are young men under 30. We are supporting them. We pay them monthly, and we've been COVID or no COVID, and we need your support to keep going here. We're not playing. We recognize what's needed done, and we're doing our part. We have been doing our part. So we spend a lot of money to get this app going as it is. We know it will need a lot more improvement if you use them. And you can't, Rome wasn't built in one day. And all the tools that we need to keep the struggle going, it's not going to be built in one day, but we can start because without these tools, we can't do nothing. Okay, it is imperative for you to understand that it's very important to have intelligence in any pursuit that you have in life. It is only a stupid person that walks right straight into the fire. It is only a tree that stands while the axeman gets ready to cut it down. I think that a human being has to run away when you know that the axeman is there to cut you down, especially when the time is very clear that they're going to come at such time to cut you down. So a human being will run away. Only a tree will stand still. So I'm encouraging you guys to look beyond your person or your personal ego or what you stand for, or look beyond thinking that another brother is trying to take you for a fool or take your money from you. With that attitude, we can never get nowhere. The Africa will be a romanticized story and it will never be realized. Okay? We have done a lot, we've spent a lot of money, and we feel like at this point, we want you guys to use the app. That's it. And if you use the app and like it, go down on the YouTube. I posted the link on where to support what we're doing. I think the time is up now. It's 4 p.m. my time, and I have enough of this, and I've had enough of this, and I appreciate you guys being here, and I really appreciate my viewers. I know we are catching up in number, but slowly but surely we'll get there. I thank you, Crypto Space, for being here, and I thank you, Bernard, and who else? It's pretty much two people. Each one teach one. Crypto Space, but oh, Aaron, thank you for being here, Aaron, and Jayla Candice, thank you very much. Well, the app, Jayla Candice asked if the app is in English. Right now, the app is in English because we live in an English country, but we have a plan to make it more like Afro, kind of like Black people app, so that we can use even emojis would be Black emojis and all that kind of stuff. Right now, the MVP is in English and it's only working on Android phone. Please go download it and use it. And the beauty of this app is that you can talk to your fellow man or woman with nobody else looking at it and seeing what you're doing. Even your service provider, if you live in the US, T-Mobile, Sprint, or whatnot. If you live in Europe, Orange, Vodafone, all of that, they won't even understand what's going on. So in order to keep the struggle, we need platforms like this. And I've been in the field for donkey years. I'm over 20 plus years experience in the field, security and software development. And my team, I have a company in the States here. You can check it out yourself. I'm not here to take your money, but it makes me sick to know that I understand how to move forward in what we are trying to do with technology in this age of technology, and I do nothing. I decided to come out and get things done because I know what I have will help our people to cut out the influence and the sabotage from the masses and power there is. But with that, it can safeguard the youths. And I don't know if many of you remember this Arab Spring. One of the tools that they used to communicate amongst themselves during Arab Spring was a tool called Tor. Okay, their system, the internet circuits weren't able to determine and see the information that is being sent back and forth. So I envision what will happen as African youths come together and unify themselves regardless of the national boundaries that were gained from political independence. So the Africa that I see is one that's crying for independence, not only on a national level, but on a continental level. And in their mind, they want the independence because they have recognized that we are stupid to be quoted colonial masters while we have our own heroes, our prophets, and all that. Why would we be quoting corpses when we live in the land of the living? So the land of the living, you put those that are living, not the corpses. So when you put the corpses, that means you are perpetuating the ideas of your oppressors. So you should be putting your own ancestors to perpetuate the lineage of your ancestors. So it's only common sense. I'm not talking to impress upon you, but I'm just bringing logic to the table so that way you can understand where I'm coming from. So if you cannot trace your root or know where you're from, how do you know where you're going? That's the point. How would you even know if you got there? All right. So I'm gonna wrap it up now, and I see everybody. I've answered everybody's question now, so I'm gonna wrap it up. Thank you guys for being here. This is Josiah, and each one teach one again. And this program is completely sponsored by Lockdown LLC in Columbia, South Carolina. And I would like for you guys to keep tuning in to what I have to say. And if you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. Hit the like button and keep sharing. And also make sure you turn the notification on, so next time I have one of these um, topics, you can hear them. Take care now and enjoy your night. Be safe. Bye bye.